My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path.
Well, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
We're dressed a little bit differently today. It's so formal.
I know. So we want to do a shout out.
Yay. Megan,
and
Adam.
Adam.
Congratulations. It's wedding day.
It is wedding day. And so Meg is my niece, one of my older sister's youngest child. And Meg has been with us from the beginning of My Inner Knowing.
Thanks, Meg.
Yeah, thanks,
You're
Meg.
awesome.
Yeah. We're really excited to see what else is to come because there's more coming.
Yeah.
So Megan has done our branding and design and our website and just so much creative talent. And we just love you. We love you. So thank you for everything that you've done and seeing our vision and believing in us and supporting us and loving us. And so we are very excited for today.
I can't follow that up any better. I love you too. And thanks.
Yeah. So we are working on the conversations that we wish our parents had had with us. But what Walker and I realized when we sat down to record our first one was that it was really hard. And so we're stepping back from that, not long. The next episode we record, we'll start there. But we realized there was just more perspective we needed to gain around each one of those topics that we're going to cover. Because I think right now there's at least 15 different topics that people presented to us. When I made that post on social media, we got texts and emails and messenger messages and some responses on the post of different conversations. And so we're getting there. We're working on it. It's just something that Walker and I take very seriously. And so we recognized there was just more background and foundational work we needed to do before we stepped into that. So for those of you that were waiting, they're coming. We promise. So today we're going to talk about calling ourselves names. What are you thinking?
Just waiting.
Just waiting.
Yeah.
So for me, it was not something that I had an awareness of, as best I recall, until in 2006 when I almost died. My mom came and spent time with me at the house as part of my recovery after I got out of the hospital. And I don't remember exactly what we were doing. I feel like we were outside. And she called herself stupid. And I was like, what? I mean, it's not even a word I would begin to associate with my mom. And so I would guess that it was something that I had heard before. It was just the first time I was aware of it. And I said something to her, about it, and she didn't have any awareness that she was saying it. And now it is something that I believe she has more awareness around. My siblings have more awareness around it. And we point it out to her when we hear her say it. The other thing that my mom calls herself is lazy. I know, isn't it funny?
Yeah.
Right? Another word I would not ever associate with my mom. And so with that first exposure, 19 years ago, it's just something that I notice. And I point out, when it feels like it is appropriate. I had a colleague just a few weeks ago. We were having a conversation about something that she was struggling with, and she called herself an idiot twice. And I said to her when she got done, I said, "How often do you call yourself names?" And she said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, you just called yourself an idiot twice." And she said, "I did?" And I said, "You did." She's like, "I didn't know that." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know that we often do know that we're calling ourselves names, but I think it happens more than we realize." And so for me, the conversation is, can we continue to increase our awareness that we do that so that we can change how we talk to ourselves? That's where I'd like to start. Yeah. What are you thinking?
I wonder what you call yourself.
Mm,
Or have you stopped?
that is a really good question. I still think I call myself fat. Like maybe I don't say I'm fat, but that's like in there. Mm-hmm.
I heard you once say stupid, stupid, stupid.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah, but I'm not going to say.
Oh. Okay. You.
I'm not making it up.
Okay. Well, you'll have to tell me later. Yeah. What do you hear me call myself? Other than that incident?
I just don't think I can think of another instance, to tell you the truth, that you just... if you do, it's not very often. Out loud anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would guess internally too. You've done a lot of work.
For the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have an awareness for yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually curse words and usually comes in threes.
Oh, really?
Well, it's usually JFC something.
Oh. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, my dad cursed a lot. And I think that's where it comes from. I mean, I learned many on my own, I'm sure, but that's how I treat myself. Yeah. If I'm not thinking, and then I spot it, but what I'm interested in is your experience, how it was that you got to the point where you didn't do that. And maybe you never did very much. But anyway, we can talk about that. I don't want to get us off track, but I do. I did it today. As a matter of fact, I'll finish typically thinking about some past event. And I'll say, what an effing dumbass. Or you stupid MF. And it's usually shame related. I'm shaming myself.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's things that, unless somebody got me really, really, really mad, I wouldn't say to somebody else.
Yeah.
The younger me might have. I don't know. I say a lot of jackass if I'm angry and driving.
Yeah, but that's other directed. Are you directing it to yourself too?
And other drivers, when I'm, and I realize, oh, I'm angry, and then I've gotten to the point where I can settle that down really quick, just recognizing that's about me. Just because it is. Just because somebody does something that is unsafe, that's usually what it is, if they put me or others at risk when that comes out. But sometimes it's just because I'm mad about something else, and that just comes. So, and I've done a lot of work too, but it's still there.
So do you think so there's you calling yourself names, and then there's you calling other people names, do you think that when you're struggling with yourself is when you're more likely to do like the jackass thing?
Yeah, in the car. It's not like I do it if we're standing at the grocery store. You know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I
Yeah.
wasn't
No,
saying
it's
that.
vehicle related, which I don't think is uncommon.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
wonder
it's
what
like,
that's about.
I don't know. Maybe it's the power piece, you know.
Mm.
S-
Oh,
you're-
like we're in your vehicle and you
we're
feel
powerful because we're in control of you
a
know,
large.
how many 1,000 pounds that is. You can go 100 miles an hour, all that stuff. I think that may have some bearing on it. I don't know. Maybe there's a risk factor, you know, it's a little, at some level, you realize, you know, accidents and crashes happen. They just do.
Oh,
and so
absolutely.
maybe that's all of that put together that makes that start to come out more often.
Mm.
Anyway.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not something that I've thought about. But I could see how if we're struggling with some type of shame reaction, that our reactions to other people would be more increased.
Well, of course.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think about what comes to mind was at one of our retreats, and we may have talked about this on an episode. I don't remember. But when we did the retreat,
Who said that?
Who said that? Right. Do you want to share about that exercise that we did? The kind of like the psychodrama exercise?
No, you can do it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was a witness, right? Because you were facilitating, and
Sure.
it was beautiful, you know, to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was good work.
Yeah. Whew, hard work. It makes me emotional to even think about talking about it.
When we talked to people that participated, the people that came.
Yeah.
It was significant and hard.
It was. Yeah. So that retreat was really a kind of a deep dive into how do we talk to ourselves.
Right.
Right. And so we spent those 4 days exploring those different voices.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, if we could, where did those voices come from? And so there was a lot of, you know, self-inquiry, you know, like a meditative type experience. And then I think it must have been Saturday afternoon before the fire walk we did, or maybe Saturday morning. We went outside and, like, you know, got gathered in a circle, and you
Excuse me.
really were people's guide in regards to choosing people, to other people in the group. So like if you picked one person to be the person to work on their stuff, and then they would pick other people in the group to represent their voice.
Right.
And
or the voices.
Or their voices.
The players of the voices, yeah.
Right.
And what I did was I took their arm if they
wanted
I
to.
offered.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because it's scary. And it helps, you know, settle down. Also takes people to a younger place. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd walk in a circle, and then we'd walk back, and we'd have a conversation about some of the voices. And then I'd have them pick who would play those voices.
Yeah.
So.
And then they would have that person, they would tell that person what voice to use and what the words were and the tone and inflection and all of that. And then they would practice that voice. And it was a very powerful experience. And then we had them invite in all of those people into the middle of the circle with them. And then those people would put their hand on their shoulder, like standing behind them. And then they would start saying those voices. And it would be, you know, you're so stupid, or you're not good enough, or you're not smart, or, I mean, it was a lot. And then the like the pressure of someone's hand on their shoulder, and just the repetitiveness of hearing that And then the person, really what the exercise was how long am I going to continue doing this? This is a real thing. These are real things I say to myself. These are stories that I use that keep me stuck. And will I continue to carry these stories? Or can I acknowledge them and release them? And so they're standing there and the people start, and then we ask them to make a choice to remove those voices. And that would be by like taking someone's hand off. Like, I'm ready to let that voice go. I'm ready to let that voice go. I'm ready to let that voice go. But how hard sometimes it was for people to let one of the voices go.
Yeah.
Like somehow there was some part of them that felt like I have to keep that voice that shames me around in some way, thinking that it'll keep me in line.
Chords came to mind.
Yeah, share more.
Well, just also a fear that without that, who will I be? You know, an underlying piece.
Yeah.
That's just coming to mind. And that wasn't what somebody expressed, but I'm guessing that's a part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do I feel worthy to take on the new voices?
Sure.
Right.
And that's interesting, babe. You know, a nice positive follow-up to that exercise would be choosing new voices and having the same experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
New retreat idea.
Yeah. People are like, no.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah, right. In that, yeah, we did do positive voices that weekend, but not in that same exercise. And it's always so powerful for people to step into that energy of those voices, even though I think it often feels like it doesn't fit, or it doesn't feel true, or it feels like I can't, say that.
The positive piece.
Yeah, the positive piece.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Just that you've got to try it on. And it's hard.
Yeah.
But it's work. I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
If it was easy, we could all just sit on a beach and stay there forever, right? Never get out of our chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not life.
No. I think it brings to mind that that exercise we did, the mirror exercise with those two women in Sedona, when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I love you. And whoo, all the emotion that can come with that when you're looking yourself in the eye and telling yourself that you love yourself.
Do you think you love yourself?
I think that it's a work in process, probably for the rest of my life. There's story that I'm aware of, and there's story that I'm still not yet aware of. Right. And so I think so much better than I used to. I think like when you were saying, I'm not sure I've heard you say things out loud, but internally, as you were saying, for sure, I'm sure there are things that I'm still not aware of actually, that's not hard for me to think at all of of my internal dialogue that I'm aware of, that I'm still working on. Absolutely. Really, truly believing in myself, feeling like I deserve freedom and peace and joy. Yeah, that everything doesn't have to be hard. That I don't have to work hard all the time to have value. Yeah. What?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So, obviously, we're very curious what other people are aware of that they call themselves. And, if you could find, a safe person in your life, whether it's a friend or partner or family member, who could give you feedback about how you talk to yourself. This is hard work.
Yeah, well, a feedback from a positive perspective too, because when you say those things, it's easy for me to say, well, I know the answer to all those, but so do you, right?
What are you thinking? Tell me.
Just all the examples you just gave of the things that you are working through. Am I worthy? Do I have to work every second and so hard? I know the answer to that for you. And it's so crazy that we know it, but we don't know it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think all we can do is keep coming back. And when you raise the mirror exercise, I was thinking, I need to do that. And we've got a participant from our retreat. She has come to many, actually. One of our super fans. And, I raised that exercise and it's just like it sticks. And so it was a gift that I gave her. I need to remind myself too. And I know that, right?
Yeah.
But I think I need to do it.
Yeah.
We, our lives ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Right. I just hope I keep coming back to that shore less and less often so I can move on down the coast where the winds are calm and the skies are sunny.
Yeah.
With the occasional storm. You know what I'm saying? Just not always blustery. Yeah.
I think every once in a while, not often, but every once in a while, I have a client will say, I wish that I didn't understand so much. It's so much harder. Right.
Periods of time it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like completely true. It's just they're sharing their, like, this is hard work to be aware of yourself and the impact that you have on people, the impact you have on yourself.
Yes.
The energy that it takes to change those ways that we engage with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand completely, and I feel that way sometimes myself still. But I also know, and thank goodness I have that understanding, that it's part of why I'm here to have that experience. So I learn,
Yeah.
And I remember before.
What?
Well, before I had cancer, that's how I lived my life. And it was. And I just wasn't here.
No, you mean present.
Present. Yeah. And it's autopilot. Just kind of drifting through. And I think it's hard to say I'm grateful for the times that I've suffered, but I am. Because I have that perspective. And I think that for me, that leads to a more meaning for why we're here, for my life anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you thinking when you say that?
I think when you have that perspective that suffering teaches me, working through calling myself names or having been called names and then doing it myself for years or decades, or a lifetime. But working through that it's painful.
Yeah.
Right. And it's easier to just stuff it away. Well, but realizing that process is teaching me gives my life more meaning.
Yeah.
Than I just had a bad experience. So I struggled. I never considered it or stepped into the present to look at it,
Yeah.
to make choices.
Mm-hmm.
I just went through life and then it was over. What did I learn if I didn't try to get perspective?
Mm-hmm.
But getting perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you got to pay the toll.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean in a punishment kind of a way, but you have to put in the effort.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It makes me think about a conversation that we had yesterday. We did a Journey into the Gray event yesterday, and I wish I could remember what the person said. And I said, I wonder how our life would be different if we were taught life was an experiment. Would it be so hard if that was the lens that we were brought up with? From little.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Because instead of getting to a place where it's just like, okay, how do I learn from these experiences? As opposed to, I'm going to learn from these experiences. Right. Of course I am. Right.
It feels like freedom to me.
Yeah.
If you'd had that put in from the very beginning, taught that you came here to practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking, in sharing that. If from the beginning we were taught that life was an experiment, I really do believe that our life would be less painful. Our expectations would be more full of curiosity as opposed to certainty.
Believing that life is an experiment would also, I think, alleviate a lot of the perfectionism that so many people carry.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I just think about not the retreat a few weeks ago, but the one in November, where the very first night I said, whoever has struggles with perfectionism, raise your hand. Everybody raised their hand, and everybody's looking around like, what? Everybody here is struggling with perfectionism.
It's true.
Yes. Yeah. Fascinating.
It is. I mean, part of me wonders if you taught the opposite, if it would stick or if that's just part of our human nature.
I don't know that it's part of our human nature. I mean, I think a certain amount of certainty is, right? But if we're conditioned, right, that this is an experiment. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like that was something that I allowed my kids a lot of leeway around, was experimenting. And I know I've told those stories, Xander with the special massage product that she made out of flour and water and toothpaste. And Cameron taking electronics apart that we got that he could take apart after he took apart something that I didn't want him to take apart. Right. But allowing that room, I didn't think about it as creating perspective. I really was just wanting them to find what was interesting to them. But there probably was a perspective piece that they were learning too by being able to experiment. But I think I got to experiment too. I'm not saying that it was always handled very well. I mean, if I, like when I flushed a washcloth down the toilet when we had a septic system because I was trying to figure out how to wash out a diaper, because I would watch my mom do that, like she'd hold the cloth diaper in the toilet to get most of it off, right? And then she would wash it. And that's what I was trying to do. I have a very clear memory of that. And then the washcloth going, phew.
Did Dad freak out?
I can absolutely guarantee that he did freak out. Yeah, septic systems are, sensitive.
Especially back then, I'm sure it was
I'm
worse.
sure. Yeah, 50 years ago. Sure. What?
Just messing with you.
You.
I thought you were 40.
You.
Well, you look 40.
Oh, thanks, babe.
Thank you. Smooth.
You're right. You.
It's your fancy outfit.
It is, I'm sure. So interesting. Yeah. So with this conversation, again, really just encouraging people that are listening. I've talked about this for sure, but about this isn't a real thing other than in my mind and description. But, when I talk about consciousness, I talk about, 27 levels or layers of consciousness. And so, for me, often the conversations we're having are about increasing our awareness. So whatever that part of us, that level of consciousness that it's resting in can increase so that we have a better ability to see it and recognize it and grab a hold of it when it does kind of like flash through our mind, that little awareness that happens so that we can, examine it more intentionally so that we can see ourselves more clearly. Because I think often we can know things, but we didn't know it. And so I feel like we're trying to go to a place where we can raise it high enough in our consciousness that we can know it. Because how often do we say to ourselves, oh, I knew that.
Yeah.
Right? But not enough. We didn't know it enough.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there are plenty of things that I can think of where I had some level of awareness, but not enough for me to truly pause and to consider the choice that I was making.
Mm-hmm.
That they were choices that would have been more, I think, probably rationalized, right? Or
Sure.
just disregarded because I, for whatever reason, wasn't ready to see or couldn't allow myself to see.
Yeah. I think the journaling is such an important piece of this, and I'm still working on consistency with it. Because it's you're really facing it when you start to put it down on paper. But it helps focus you.
Yeah.
And there's just something about the old school pen on paper that for me lets those words come out and maybe the experience that they're tied to. And now, I use it, why I use it.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
Yeah.
The journaling piece, bringing it higher up.
Yeah. In my experience, just sitting and thinking about it, it's easy to run, and it's easy to run when you start the journaling piece until you stick with it, right? We'll write about whatever else besides this, but I do think it's a useful tool.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. For this type of work.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I know quite a few people that have found journaling helpful. It's just, what are we journaling? Are we using it to beat ourselves up later? Or are we using it to keep things in our awareness so that we can choose healthier choices?
I think with intention, you may be beating yourself up, but to me, if it's intentional, it's a release. And it's a kind of focus tool.
Right. Sure. It makes me think about the difference between like a physical release. We talk about that, right? You can journal and it not be intentional. You can journal because you are supposed to, because that's a healthy thing, right? Just because you journal doesn't mean that growth comes from it. I've had people over the years who are like, journaling is not helpful for me.
Mhm.
And so, is it intentional? Why am I doing this? What am I hoping to learn and understand? Right? Or do I do it in such a way to reinforce my struggle?
Mhm.
Which we
Mhm.
can do with the physical release too. We
Oh,
can
sure.
become very hypnotic, and then we're not releasing anything. We're just reinforcing something.
Sure.
Man, our intention is so important, isn't it?
Mhm. It is.
Yeah. So even thinking about that, if people were going to create an intention for journaling around, do they call themselves names? What comes to mind for you? Something that they could ask themselves.
How many times in the last week did I call myself something?
Okay.
Or did I speak to myself harshly or in a way that I wouldn't speak to anybody else?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You could even say the last 48 hours.
Sure.
And then I would make the list, what did I say?
Mm-hmm.
And where did that come from?
Mm-hmm. As best as I'm aware.
As best I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think the positive aspect is, what would I be like if I was able to put that down?
Mm.
Who would I be?
Mm-hmm. Without that story.
Mhm.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Who would I be without that story? More myself. Freer. Mm-hmm.
Vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more joyful.
Yeah.
All those things.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Mm.
Well, we hope you all step into this work of exploring that. And I would say even consider asking, like we talked about earlier, someone that you feel like would give you honest feedback. Because sometimes we want feedback, but we want feedback we want. We don't want feedback we don't want. And so we ask people to give us feedback who are just going to give us the feedback we want. And then there are people who want to help us see ourselves more clearly.
Yeah, I think part of it is in the asking too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of me is a whole lot different than how do you see me treat myself?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What have you heard me call myself?
Yes.
Will generate a completely different response from somebody who has the ability to observe you and be direct.
Right.
But if you just asked, what do you think of me, or how do you experience me? That's powerful in itself. How do you experience me? Because
Right.
it can be teaching.
Right.
But I think for this, if you put it in that other perspective, you'll get a lot more traction.
Yeah. Powerful exercise.
It is. Thanks, babe. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.